Coinbase partners with JPMorgan. Strategy earnings are heading our way soon, and Ethereum hits new 2025 highs. Welcome to Crypto Corner. I'm Jenny Horne, and for this week, we'll focus on a couple of cryptocurrency companies before getting to the charts. Helping us out today is Nate Peterson, Director of Derivatives Analysis at the Schwab Center for Financial Research. So Nate, thanks as always for joining us. Let's start things off here with Coinbase. A big partnership with JPMorgan was announced. Walk us through the details.
Yeah, no doubt. A big news, Jenny, for the industry. Mr. Dimon, Mr. Jamie Dimon, when he speaks on crypto, he sounds a little bit skeptical about it. And meanwhile, you look at what JP Morgan, the company, is doing. And back in May, they put their first transaction on the blockchain. Back in June, they launched a deposit token on Coinbase's blockchain for their institutional clients. And then with this news that they are kind of helping to bridge traditional finance with the crypto world by partnering with Coinbase, such that their clients can use their JPMorgan Chase credit cards to fund purchases of crypto, or they'll be able to redeem the reward points and purchase USDC. That's that stable coin that is issued from Circle, that recent IPO. So you can see this traction within the industry as we get more of these announcements, and they come out in these various forms and partnerships. And of course, from JP Morgan's stance, I mean, they're able to leverage Coinbase's first mover status that they have within the crypto industry. And then why is this significant for the crypto industry? Well, it makes it easier for their clients, this is the retail clients, to then consider, when they're redeeming their points, hey, maybe I should just go ahead and diversify and get some stable coin. I can use that stable coin, USDC, and then maybe I purchase some cryptocurrency, maybe some Bitcoin. If we were just talking about Bitcoin and the potential for more of the retail investor or consumer to get exposure, meaning to purchase, to have as part of their assets on their balance sheet, whatever percentage of crypto, that could be beneficial. If it was just Bitcoin, we could think of the supply-demand dynamics. Hey, they're taking more supply potentially if this increases the adoption out of circulation. And so one would think that would be good for prices. But I think this is just another incremental step that looks to validate this Web 3.0 evolution that is underway. And despite what Mr. Dimon says, they are recognizing and acknowledging, tipping their hat, if you will, to the industry.
Okay, and outside of that news, we do also have Coinbase with earnings out Thursday afternoon. So what are the expectations there? Because this name tends to be pretty volatile on the back of earnings.
Yeah, it certainly has. And look, that they're, like I said, they're the first mover. The crypto exchange. They're well trusted. They came public in 2021. And JP Morgan recently just put out a note to clients talking about the value of their relationship with Circle. So they have a 50-50 kind of a fee sharing arrangement with Circle, and because Circle utilizes Coinbase to issue their USDC. So the more USDC that gets issued out there, that's going to translate to the bottom line of both Circle and to Coinbase. And JP Morgan put out a note saying that they value the economics of this relationship at somewhere between 50 to 60 billion. And if you take into consideration that Coinbase market cap is 94 billion, well, that's really interesting that, we've seen the advance of Coinbase that's moved along with Bitcoin. So let's keep in mind with Coinbase, if you're looking at a stock like this as an investment, there is a bit of a tractor beam between the price of Bitcoin and what happens with Coinbase. So keep that in mind, that when you go into a crypto-related type of stock, such as Coinbase, and when Coinbase came public, they put out 3 estimates in terms of their forward revenue guidance, and it was based on the price of Bitcoin. Why? Because they get so much of their revenue as well from transactions. They get still a fairly high transaction fee when you buy and sell Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency you do off of their platform. So the higher the price of that cryptocurrency, since they're getting a percentage, the better.
Yeah, and I think also marking a complete shift from Jamie Dimon, who was at one point one of the biggest skeptics of the entire industry. So that's at least encouraging there. But to shift gears here and look at Strategy, of course, formerly known as MicroStrategy, also reports its earnings this week. Very different sense of company because this is, of course, the largest holder of Bitcoin among any major corporation. So what is on the docket there?
Yeah, so look again with Coinbase, and this is maybe even Coinbase I say is tractor beam to the price of Bitcoin, and you'll see that correlation, that relationship as well. If that correlation is zero point 0.8 with Coinbase, it's going to be 0.9 or higher probably with MicroStrategy because it's transitioned. It claims to be the world's first Bitcoin reserve company, and they are Bitcoin treasury reserve, so to speak, primarily focusing on this strategy of acquiring Bitcoin. If you look at how many Bitcoin they currently have on their balance sheet, it's around 600,000. You do the math times, let's call it 117,000 for Bitcoin, and you get to around 70 billion of that notional value that's on their balance sheet based on the price of Bitcoin. Their market cap is about 110 billion. So look, MicroStrategy is in this unique position where they're able to offer these 0% convertible bonds and use those funds to go purchase Bitcoin. They've also launched various other products. And so it's almost like a bank or Bitcoin holding company, so to speak. And if you look at how this stock reacts around earnings, they had 110 million in revenue. They posted a really big loss last quarter. So market cap 110 billion, revenue 110 million is coming from a lot of some of the software services that they still have. It's almost negligible. So this is primarily just the focus is on that Bitcoin. So in a stock like this, again, you got to think this is a proxy for a levered play essentially on Bitcoin. We saw a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of meme trading type behavior in MicroStrategy or strategy after President Trump won the presidential election, and it did move above 500. While Bitcoin has made new highs, we haven't seen that happen with MicroStrategy, and we've also seen several other companies adopt this approach of being a Bitcoin holding company or an Ethereum holding company. So, look, we'll take a look at what kind of announcements they have around whether they're new issuance or whether they're updating their strategy in terms of what they're going to do with their Bitcoin holdings. But that's really how you have to think about this kind of a stock. It's a levered proxy for the price of Bitcoin. If you think Bitcoin's going up, then you would think because of the 600K Bitcoins they have that the stock would follow.
But let's turn our attention now to the charts, starting off with Ethereum hitting 2025 highs finally, because all we've discussed so far this year is its somewhat lackluster performance compared to Bitcoin. So what are you seeing from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, let's take a look at a chart of Ethereum. So obviously it's recently been a relative outperformer here. It's not at new highs. I think the all-time high is around 4,800, but Ginny, we've been talking about Ethereum and how this has been something that's been on my radar, so to speak, because Ethereum benefits with the more stablecoin issuance and adoption that takes place. 50% of stablecoins are utilizing Ethereum's network. So that's what's really helped to see this relative outperformance. Having said that, we got close to the $4,000 level here recently on this most recent rally. And if you look at this 3-year chart that we have here, it's peaked out around 4,000 to 4,200-ish around this area. And those peaks were met with an aggressive, almost, parabolic move higher into that print. And then ultimately, there was, sharp reversal, as you can see in the chart. I'm not suggesting that this is going to happen again because I do admit those prior peaks on Ethereum, fundamentally, the market has changed, the regulatory environment has changed, and a lot of this price movement that we have seen has not just been a piggyback on what Bitcoin is doing. I think that it's been fundamentally driven. However, as a technician, I am a CMT, it makes me a little worried in terms of a risk reward if you're looking to get into Ethereum at these levels, that what happens if you encounter that resistance around 40 to 4,200, and the risk reward would then therefore be skewed should it encounter that resistance. Again, we don't know what's going to happen, but the technicals are a little bit more challenged than this backdrop of the fundamentals, which are moving in Ethereum's favor.
Okay, and now to shift our focus on Bitcoin, what is the chart showing you for as far as its latest price activity?
Yeah, sure, Jenny. Yeah, good old Bitcoin still doing well, hovering near highs. It has this recent history of making these pushes to new highs and then going through these periods of consolidation. So that most recent high was around 112 in terms of a recent break. And as a technician, what you want to see generally is some conviction, some volume, some follow through. And that's what we saw as it broke above 112, ran up to about 123-ish or so. And then after doing that, and by the way, that was around crypto week. There was some of those fundamental catalysts that was helping to push or propel the price. And then if you look at the chart now over the past 10 trading days or so, this is sideways consolidation, digesting the gains. You're getting some churn in terms of ownership, allow people to take profits, allow new Bitcoin owners to basically come in on those modest pullbacks. So it's speaking to some of the bid support that's in there. Consolidation is healthy after you make a big move like this. And by the way, you can consolidate by going down or going sideways. Obviously, we can see in the chart, it's going sideways here. Of course, if you're bullish, what you want to see eventually is a resumption of the trend. And then on the downside, since that breakout level was 112K, it's okay to get a retest of that level. But what you don't want to see is a pullback down back below. And then if you look at the high on the chart there, it looks a little bit like a shooting star, meaning it ran up and it created this wick by getting some sell-off that occurred. It's not a problem because what I'm seeing is healthy over the past 2 weeks. But we're going to have to see if it's ready to break out to a new price. It can consolidate like this for a couple weeks or a month. That would be normal. It could pull back. If the overall market, if we get some weakness in the equity market due to seasonality, maybe Bitcoin pulls back as well. But if you're a bull, what you would like to see is hang in there above 112 so that we know that we're establishing, so to speak, a new trading range for Bitcoin between 112 and we'll call it 123. So we'll keep an eye on this, and we'll keep an eye on the equity markets as well. Because, Jenny, I know we've talked about this in the past, but I feel like if we get something like a 3, 5, 7% pullback in stocks, that's when we're going to be able to get a sense of the resiliency and the demand and the bid support for Bitcoin. The market's been melting up to new highs, so we haven't had that test really yet. So that's what I've got on my radar. And we've got August and September, bearish seasonality, relatively speaking, for stocks. We'll see if that translates through to Bitcoin.
Couldn't have said it better myself, as I do think the next few months will be the ultimate test because, as you said, historical weakness is not abnormal for now, August and September, and even through some of the fall months. But appreciate it. Nate Peterson, always wonderful insight on the entire crypto space. But that'll do it for Crypto Corner this week. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm Jenny Horne. We'll see you again soon.